No one saw this coming, y'all. In the wee hours of the morning, it was reported by the Steinline that the Dallas Mavericks are waiving recently acquired guard Tyus Jones. And the intent there is to explore their late season options, including signing Ryan Nembhard to a standard NBA contract. Now, that second part of the announcement, the Ryan Nembhard part, that part I think we all saw coming, right? He had that flash earlier this season where once he took over the starting point guard position, suddenly we were a competent basketball team that was running an actual offense that was taking care of the ball. Now, I feel like the league figured out Ryan Nembhard pretty quickly thereafter, and that flash in the pan was really just that. But we see the potential of having a real floor general on the floor with Cooper Flagg and with Max Christie. These are guys that need to have a good ball handler to set guys up, get them to their spots. Okay, but when I say no one saw this coming, let's just rewind the chain of events that unfolded around the trade deadline. Okay, the Anthony Davis trade happened, right? Remember, we received Chris Middleton, Marvin Bagley, Malachi Branham, and AJ Johnson. Maybe I said that name twice. Guys, forgive me. It's pre 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning. My oldest son decided to wake up at 2 o'clock this morning. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back in the studio anyway. Why not do it at the first thing on a Saturday morning? Anyway, so then we got our guy Malachi Branham, and we traded him to Charlotte, who had recently traded with Orlando to get Tyus Jones. And we're like, you know what? Let's do a quick switcheroo. We brought in Tyus Jones. So basically, we did all these trades just to waive him, right? Just to free up a roster spot. I don't really understand how and why things unfolded the way that they did, but I'm not like upset about it. Why don't we investigate a little bit deeper what some of the after effects of this roster move is going to be? I think we'll dive into that, and we'll unpack a little bit of what we saw on the basketball court last night. As ugly as it was, we're going to talk about it. I am your host, Ethan, the advisor Clayton. Welcome to the party. Welcome to the Saturday morning party. And by party, I mean dope podcast. It's good to be back, guys. This is Your Mavs, a Dallas Mavericks podcast where all are welcome. Y'all better behave. All right, let's dive right in, fam. So, yeah, I say it's breaking news. It's going to be labeled as a shocking development because really, in my mind, whenever we brought in Tyus Jones in that secondary trade after we had acquired Malachi Branham from the Wizards, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, he will be the starting point guard for the rest of the season, or at least until Kyrie Irving returns. Then the Kyrie Irving announcement came out that he's going to go ahead and sit out the rest of this season, gear up for next season. And I'm like, okay, for sure, Tyus Jones will be our starting point guard, right? Because at that time, it was Tyus Jones, Brandon Williams, and Ryan Nembhard, who has I think maybe 10 games left on his two-way contract. I could be wrong. Somebody fact check me on that. But it was a ticking time bomb as far as like what Ryan Nembhard's availability was going to be. So it was pretty much going to be Tyus Jones, Brandon Williams, and maybe some Naji Marshall, right? Which we've definitely seen Naji running point some. But here I am, shocked on a Saturday morning that Dallas kind of looked at they evaluated the roster, they evaluated the direction that we're going as a team. There's about 6 weeks left of this season. You know what? Let's go ahead and free up that roster space. Ryan Nembhard, come on down. Now, does that? I'm going to take a brief detour here. Does that mean that we should be worried that Chris Middleton's going to be bought out? It was reported earlier this week that the Mavericks are going to give him full freedom to decide whether or not he wants to stay or if he wants to go. Right? The whole headline around the Tyus Jones being waived thing was that he is now freed up to go join a playoff contending team. That's kind of what they always say in these situations. Chris Middleton for sure could go play a solid role on a playoff contending team. So now I'm suddenly a little bit concerned that we're also going to waive him so that we now free up that extra roster spot for Moussa Cisse. And please hear me say, Moussa Cisse is absolutely deserving of that roster spot. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He played great last night. There wasn't a lot of good things that happened on the court last night, but Moussa Cisse had 8 points, 8 rebounds, a couple of blocks. He was lightning in a bottle, right? But Chris Middleton, I've grown to really become a fan. Not just again, we've talked about this before. Not just because of the bag that he has on the offensive side of the ball, but he is an extremely well-spoken veteran leader. Right? He is calm and collected. You know, you see a bunch of guys yelling and arguing with the refs, and meanwhile, Chris Middleton's like, "Get over here. Let's talk about it. Let's huddle up." Right? So that's the kind of thing I think the Mavericks really need to have as a presence. And you know, I think it's all but written in stone that like Mavericks fans are so okay with keeping Klay Thompson through the end of his contract. I think it's very much the same situation with Chris Middleton, even after, just a couple of weeks that he has been a Dallas Maverick, because all the things that we just mentioned. And, you know, in this last stretch of basketball where it's going to be really ugly a lot of the time, seeing some pure hoops from Chris Middleton makes it a less tough pill to swallow in my mind. So now I'm suddenly concerned that we are going that direction with Chris Middleton, and that will free up the spot for Moussa Cisse. But I'll be annoyed about it for like an hour, and then I'll be excited that our undrafted two-way guys both got converted to standard NBA guys. They are both deserving. But yeah, that's the breaking news for the day. Tyus Jones, thank you for coming in and playing professionally, right? There was very limited stretch of play time for him, but he took care of the ball, right? He got a surprising amount of rebounds for a really short point guard that, you know, gets maybe 10, 15 minutes off the bench. So I have no complaints about the Tyus Jones experience. I am a little bit shocked about it. But guys, let's briefly unpack what happened last night against the Grizzlies. I'm going to tell you that first half of that game last night is probably the ugliest basketball I've ever seen the Dallas Mavericks play. And that may sound like an exaggeration, but guys, I think there were like 14, 15 turnovers in the first half. I think we had scored 42 points in the first half. Yeah, like on pace to score 84 against the Memphis Grizzlies. We're a really terrible team, aren't we? Now, we took it up a notch in the second half. I'm going to take a quick drink break here. We picked it up in the second half, but guys, it was putrid basketball. Like a lot of the turnovers that we were seeing, it wasn't because the Memphis Grizzlies were locking us down in any form or fashion, right? It was the silly dribbling the basketball off of your foot, or making an errant pass, or there's somebody wide open, but you just can't get them the ball. Like there was so much of that last night. It was pretty frustrating to watch. Second half rolls around. All of a sudden, Max Christie's starting to hit threes again. All of a sudden, AJ Johnson is getting a lot of ball handling opportunities, and he didn't do terrible with it. But since we're going to talk about AJ Johnson for a second, let me just say, homie cannot shoot. Those were some of the ugliest three-point shots. I think he was 1 for 8 last night. Terrible, terrible shooter. Everything else about his game, I think I'm okay with. I'd like him to study under Kyrie Irving for a very, very long time and learn how to read the game, learn how to slow down, learn how to anticipate what the defender's going to be thinking. Like he just kind of runs fast at all times and hopes for the best. Chucks up shots, hopes for the best. But if he's going to be part of the Mavericks nucleus long term, which 50-50 on that, he's going to have to learn to slow down. Right. And I'm surprised that Jason Kidd gave him as much leash as he did last night. But, for tanking reasons, I guess it makes sense. Jason Kidd, whenever he sees players like AJ Johnson, typically is like, hey, you're going to get 5 minutes here. And if you are not dynamite in those 5 minutes, you are going to have the shortest leash of all time. speaking of short leashes, remember the whole D'Angelo Russell experience earlier this season? That feels like it was forever ago. That was really just a couple of short months ago. And it was reported the other day that there was zero interest in D'Angelo Russell across the league. So it's likely that he finishes the rest of the season with the Wizards. I don't know if that means he gets any playing time, but like it truly redefines what I've jokingly called being banished to the shadow realm before. Like that's where he's at. Nobody in the NBA has picked up the phone and asked, "Hey, can you buy him out so that we can bring him over?" That's not happening here. And unfortunately, as a 21-year-old, I see AJ Johnson being on a similar trajectory unless he figures it out pretty quickly. But I'm not going to point fingers at AJ Johnson for last night's ugly loss. We were just a terrible, terrible team. Naji Marshall ended the game with 4 points, fresh off of a 36-point performance. I don't think we're going to see many terrible performances like that from Naji Marshall. So I'm not mad about it. The positives, I mentioned Moussa Cisse earlier. I think he played about 15 minutes, but whenever he was on, you felt his presence immediately and completely. Like there's no ignoring the fact that Moussa Cisse is on the court. You're either going to get a hard foul, or you're going to get a goaltending call, or you're going to see a devastating block or an alley-oop. This guy is just all over the place. I'm so happy that he is a Dallas Maverick, and I want us to figure out a way that we can bring him on, convert his contract without waiving Chris Middleton. Who's next on the chopping block if it's not Chris Middleton? Let me know what you think about that in the comment section. But the thing that I was most frustrated about with the Mavericks last night, Max Christie is kind of a puzzle to me right now. He can either be one of the best players on the court, or he can be a nothing burger, right? And I think we've seen a lot of nothing burgers recently from him. I mentioned that in the second half, he started to find his stroke a little bit more, find his confidence a little bit more. But like, I need Homie to be confident from start to finish, because we don't have a lot of ways. We don't have a lot of avenues to create offense with this roster right now. And when Cooper Flagg is not on the court, that means that Naji, Max Christie, and PJ Washington need to be on their A game. So I expect to see leaps forward from Max Christie the rest of the season, because he's going to have plenty of opportunities and he needs to figure it out. Okay. I have said my piece on Max Christie. Now, what else should we talk about here? Now, our next game is tomorrow, Sunday, against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who just got SGA back. Lou Dort was ejected from their game last night against the Nuggets for tripping Nikola Jokic. And NBA Twitter is already ablaze this morning about the debate about, obviously, what Lou Dort did was a flagrant 2, and it was worth being ejected. And maybe he's even going to be suspended, because he just keeps doing this over and over. Like, he not only lowered his body to initiate contact with Jokic, who was kind of unaware that this was happening, but he also stuck out his foot. Clear flagrant 2. But in the ensuing heated moments, Jokic threw a punch. It didn't land, but he threw one. And it looked like he was trying to pull somebody's hair. Are we going to see Jokic get suspended for a game or two for that altercation? Anyway, I don't want to see Lou Dort on Sunday. Like, I hope he's suspended. I don't want him to be anywhere near Cooper Flagg if Cooper Flagg comes back and plays on Sunday. And that would be a good game for Cooper Flagg to return. Now, I don't want to see him immediately come back and put up 38 minutes, right, against the Thunder, because in my mind, there's no chance that we're going to win that game. But that's why you bring him back, right? I said it yesterday. I think the only reason why he hasn't played the last 4 games is because they're against 4 of the worst teams in the league. And him being on the court greatly increased our chances of winning and then ruining our lottery odds, whatever that means. But yes, Sunday's game against the Thunder, it's not a high consequence game. So, why not let him get some more reps against, some high quality point of attack defending like Kason Wallace or I don't want Lou Dort anywhere near him, especially with his dirty play antics. Don't stick your foot out and try and trip Cooper Flagg. I don't want to see that. But where was I going with that all? Yeah, I'm not excited about playing the Thunder, but please, 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 can we get Cooper Flagg back? Like I will be so happy to see our guy. That's pretty much all I have for you. Yeah, here we are, 15 minutes in. Talked a little bit of news about Tyus Jones. Talked about maybe some implications of what the rest of the season looks like. By the way, Brandon Williams, here are the keys to our offense. Maybe learn to share the rock a little bit. And I'll give credit where credit is due here. He had 9 assists the other day against the Kings. He threw up a couple of alley-oops to other players last night who just didn't catch and connect. But Brandon Williams, if you're going to be handed the keys for the rest of the season to run our offense, please learn to share the rock. That's all I'm going to say on that. Let me know in the comment section if you think that Chris Middleton is going to be bought out so that we bring on Moussa Cisse. And if that happens, are you happy or are you sad? Right? I think I'm like somewhere right in between those two because I like Chris Middleton. And then, yeah, we're going to play the Thunder tomorrow. I'll probably jump back in tomorrow and talk through not only what we can expect to see on the court, but let's get back into some draft stuff, right? I dropped a bomb on y'all yesterday about a potential draft strategy about landing in the top 3, but then trading down to get an additional lottery pick. Nobody's pushing back on that so far, but we need to get deeper into draft coverage because March Madness is just right around the corner. Like literally tomorrow is March 1st. So all the conference tourneys are going to start heating up. The big dance is going to be happening. So we're going to see a lot of the big names that have been people have excitedly talked about. Are they actually going to show up and play in big games in these tournament scenarios? So I'm excited about that. We're pretty much going to spend a lot of time looking at prospects. So guys, y'all enjoy your Saturday. It's going to be sunny and 70 here in Denver. Hope the weather is nice everywhere else that you can get out, touch some grass, forget about that ugly loss last night, and then we move on with our lives. But I will see you tomorrow. Y'all be good.